Hello and welcome to another English composition video. Today I'm going to be talking to you about op-eds because the next major paper you're going to write for me is an op-ed. What a funny word. What does op-ed stand for? Well, this comes from back in the day of print newspapers. And I can actually remember print newspapers because I'm kind of old. But when you got a print newspaper, you could go to the A section, the first section of the paper. And at the very back of the A section was the opinion pages. And on one side of the opinion pages, you had editorials, opinionated stuff written by folks who worked for the newspaper. And then on the other side, you had opinion pieces that were written by outside experts. And so that became the op-ed page. Get it? Opposite editorials. This genre has been around for just about 100 years, and it's an important facet of an important way in which we can discuss the issues that our democracy grapples with on a daily basis, right? And so that's why I want to have students write an op-ed. I want to have them write a real type of writing genre, right? So let's talk some more about this. So, again, the one thing that is required of all of these, and in the previous module pages, you got to kind of review some different op-eds that are currently published right now on Arizona Central, New York Times, or Fox News. But they all do the same thing. They all, there's always a specific stance on a current issue, and they're almost always designed to be persuasive. They're designed to persuade the reader to agree with the author about with their chosen stance on the current issue. Your op-ed will do those same things. We'll talk about what topic your op-ed is going to be about in a minute. Indeed, this is an important forum for discussion, right? Because in democracies, we don't solve things by violence. We don't solve things by force. We solve things by intelligent discussion, not by insulting each other on Twitter, right? We provide facts, we mull them over, we discuss them, and try to figure out what the right way forward is. And so, op-eds are and the opinion section in general are some of the places where we do that. What do op-eds require? Let's see. Got to be a specific issue. Yes, you have to make some kind of argument, right? Which sounds straightforward, but it's not, right? We'll talk more about your thesis statement next week. But we do need to make sure that you arrive at a claim about this topic that is contestable. In other words, that is something someone else could disagree with or agree with. And then your job in the op-ed is to persuade other folks to agree with you. Now, I have to tell you at the outset, if you feel like this feels like persuasive essays you've written in the past, I think that's okay if you want to think about that, but you need to be careful because you can visit those op-eds on AZ Central, New York Times, or Fox News. You could read every single one of them, and I guarantee you not one of them uses a three-pronged thesis. Not one of them uses 5 paragraphs. Not one of them uses a conclusion for summary. Okay, these are writing models that have been taught that have no correlation in real published writing genres. Right? If you create a three-pronged thesis for an op-ed, it's going to make most readers feel sort of put off by how kind of clunky and formal that is. Right? And if you use the conclusion for summary instead of what conclusions and op-eds are really supposed to be about, you're going to ruin the credibility that you've built up with that reader over the course of your writing. More about what to do in the conclusion down the road, but just to say, don't write this like a 5-paragraph persuasive essay. Please visit the real op-eds on the previous pages, or think about the article that you chose for the rhetorical analysis paper. All 3 of those articles, no matter which one you chose, they're all op-eds, right? They don't have three-pronged thesis statements either. All right, enough about that. Let's move on. Okay, so then, and again, you see, this is why having a rhetorical analysis paper first works well, because it helps students sort of think about, well, how does argumentation work? What are some effective ways that authors use to persuade people? And so now you can put your knowledge of those appeals to work. Now, that said, you should not say the words logos, ethos, or pathos in your op-ed. It's a completely different audience. You're writing, op-eds are for popular audiences, right? Everyday Americans. That's who reads the New York Times, Arizona Central, and Fox News. All right? Oops, I got lost there. And so if you use academic-oriented words, jargon, I should say, like logos, ethos, and pathos, the reader's going to be put off. So no, you shouldn't use those words in this paper, but you will use your knowledge of how those concepts work to persuade your reader, right? So you're not going to say the word logos, but you are going to have reasons for why you believe what you do. You're going to have examples, logic, reasoning, and as well as evidence from outside sources. That should not say and or. It should just say and, honestly, because you're required to use at least one source in here. So I'll fix that. Your paper's ethos. Well, you're going to need to show your reader that you're credible to write about this topic. How do you help develop credibility with a reader? Right, you live up to the audience's expectations. So you implement proper formatting, you use proper citation, you avoid slang and vague language. Obviously, you submit things that are carefully edited. Now, this is interesting. I statements are acceptable in op-eds. And you might wonder why, right? Especially if you spent some time editing the I statements out of your rhetorical analysis paper. Again, it comes back to the audience. Op-eds are designed for popular audiences, and so I statements are considered acceptable in op-eds. Indeed, there are times where some op-ed writers, their level of credibility about the topic is informed by their direct experience with it, and so they may talk about their own experience with the topic. More on that in a later module page. Pathos. Now, this is interesting. Most students, if you care at all about the topic, the pathos is going to work its way into your writing. Honestly, for most students, and myself included, when you edit or revise, you have to be sure that you're not introducing too much emotion, right? Because that can hurt your credibility with the reader. For many of us, if we care about the topic, it sort of finds its way in there. And so really, a lot of times your job is to sort of tone it down a little bit, to make sure you're not alienating the people you're trying to persuade, right? More on how to persuade different types of audiences in a future week. So let's see, what are you going to write about in the next paper? Well, it's not going to be censorship. We had looking forward to reading your papers about that topic, the rhetorical analysis papers about the article related to that topic. And I love my kitties, but it's not about that. This is the topic that you are going to write about. And as you'll see, if you haven't already, in the assignment instructions, you'll see I've included 2 different op-eds about solitary confinement, one from either perspective, right? So that you can kind of see what the landscape of the conversation looks like. And indeed, the discussion board assignment this week is going to help you further explore why people are talking about this, what the discussion looks like, so that you can enter into the conversation with a more informed, from a more informed point of view. That's about all I have. Again, this is just a brief intro about what op-eds are, so that you can get a feel for kind of what those look like, right? And then you'll see, I mean, we've got sample papers for you, like always. We've got published op-eds you can look at about this. And we've even got a how to write an op-ed guide from Harvard in there that I think will be helpful to you. But as always, reach out to me if you have questions, and I'm looking forward to seeing your work on the discussion board this week. Take care.